Alright, what's up everybody, Martin Forever here, and welcome to another episode of LCD Stuff. Alright, so as I completely flunk off my first take, microphone didn't work. I'm really trying to make sure the microphone works in this one. Alright, let's start. So, let me just briefly explain what I'm gonna go over today. As I promised in the first episode, I'm gonna show you how to somehow build a debug stream to view all the sensor values and some variable values with your LCD. The concept is really simple. You just use this command, display LCD number, or you just convert something into a string format and display that string. Pretty simple and straightforward. So that I thought that I would just basically show you an example and basically show you a few examples and then just let you go off on your own, because it's really not that complicated. Alright, so today, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to show you how to display a gyroscope value on the LCD display screen, and do some simple things with that value to that sensor, because I think the gyro is the one you need to have most hassle with. So I decide to deeply just in detail explain how the gyroscope works, and how you zero out and display the gyro value on the LCD display screen. And after you get this example, you probably get any other sensors, which I'm going to show you in the next video. So let's start. First, we need to configure a gyro in the pragma config, which I already did. It's in the analog port 1, and it's called gyro. Alright, great. Let's keep moving. Here we are. So, what do we call our? Excuse me, let me disable my Chinese input. I have to do that every time. Void display void let's call it gyro value. Void gyro value. So what I'm going to do in this case is that in the first line, just like what we did before, in the first line we don't display anything, or it's really up to your personal preference, but I prefer to write stuff in the first line and write sensor values in the second line. So the first line, let's write display. Let's just say in the first line, let's just say what we're displaying. In the first line, let's say that let's just say gyro value. So in the first line, we say that this is a gyro value, indicates that this is a gyro value. But in the second line, we are going to use the display LCD numbers, display LCD number command to display a number on the LCD. And let me show you how to do that if you don't already know it. So first parameter is which line we want to display. 0 is the first line, 1 is the second line. Well, everything in programming is base 0. However, I refuse to use base 0 in my digital case switch segment, which is really odd. Not programmer like. Don't blame me. I didn't know any better back then, but whatever. Alright, the second parameter is starting from the left, also starting from 0, which little character option on the screen in that line do you want to start displaying this value. And in this case, we want to start this, we want to display this thing around the center. So we are going to say that we want to display this thing around, I don't know, the 6th from the left. That sounds about right, which means we're going to punch 5 in this slot. Start displaying this number, the 6th from the left. And then we are going to display the third one is what number we want to display. So I want to display the number, which is the sensor value. I want to display the gyro value. The gyro value is, remember that, how we call a sensor's value, sensor value, gyro, because we call the thing gyro we call the gyroscope gyro in the configuration. And then the last parameter is how many digits you want to display with this little sensor. Well, usually you set it to automatically. I mean, usually you don't even mess around with it, but I prefer to just leave the to do this correctly. So when you're counting digits, you have to take into account the negative sign, because for a gyroscope in robots, it's kind of weird. It does it does go to negative sometimes. Not necessarily a compass reading in gyroscope in the robot C, which certainly can be made into one. For the specific stuff, go see Mr. Pearman's gyroscope library. So we also know that is in a tenth of a degree. So essentially, we have usually a a maximum of a 4-digit number with a negative sign possibly in front of it. So we need to spare 5 digits or 5 characters for that number. So we punch 5 in here. Alright, so that's if I save that and I paste that into my no longer nothing on screen. Gyro value. Good. And that should bring us to the that should just work. So this is the 4th and screen, and it is gyro value, and you see right here is displaying this value. And right now the 0 doesn't seem centered, but if you have if you have 4 digits and if you have a negative sign in front of it, it's gonna appear centered. So pretty good. And this is the first part, and we just finished it, and it's pretty good. And the second part I want to show you is that if you, I want to make a program so that if I press the center button on that LCD in that screen, in that gyro value screen, in this user function, if I press that button, it's gonna wait for it's gonna have a delay of 3 seconds in this task, in this while loop, while re-initializing the gyroscope value. You might ask me, why is this helpful? Well, it can be helpful because, say that you, because first, let's just recap how gyroscope works. If you define a gyroscope and you tell the robot C this is gyroscope, what robot C is doing when you are turning on the robot is that robot C, basically, it requires your robot to be perfectly still, and it is going to take a few seconds to calibrate that gyroscope and make sure that whenever you place the robot, whenever you place the robot still on the field, the gyroscope is going to read a 0, which means the value is not increasing, decreasing. Which basically means that it just calibrates the gyroscope automatically when you start the robot. But this can be messed up by 2 scenarios. For instance, when say that during competition, you were in a, your team's kind of late, and you're kind of in a hurry. You hurry to the field while turning on the robot, and right when the match is about to start, you suddenly thought about it. Oh man, I didn't properly initialize the gyro, and you know that the gyroscope value is going crazy. You know your autonomous is not going to work. Man, what do you do? Do you tell referee stop? I got to restart my robot? That's just nightmare. That's really nightmare. So with this little command, what you can do is that unplug the field control and swap to the gyroscope screen. Press the center button. Boo! It gets initialized, and then you plug back into your field control. Everything just runs very smoothly. And awesome! Hooray! It saves you a lot of hassle. And also, if your robot is running for a long time and the gyro is kind of heated and the gyro kind of has to drift, and in this case it's also really nice to just press the button and re-initialize the gyro, make it nice and smooth. So let's do this. So the way to do this is that first we want to detect if the button is pressed. If an LCD button is equal to 2, if the center button is pressed, then what I'm going to do is that I am going to, well, how do you initialize gyro? This is the formal code that's been given on the Robot C official blog about gyro, and this is how you manually re-initialize the gyro. There are different ways to do it, but I'm just going to stick to the official way. So the official way is that sensor type. So sensor type gyro. So we want to say that we want to set the sensor type of that port to sensor none. We want to set that sensor type equal to sensor none, which basically means that we want to erase anything that has been left in that sensor port, and we tell it it's not a gyro, and then we reset it to gyro. However, you need some wait command for the robot C to trigger the robot C's automatic calibration process of the thing, which can be done manually also, but I'm going to introduce that later. So you gotta wait 1 ms. So what Mr. Pierman suggested is that you can just basically wait half a second. This is fine, but I prefer to be a little bit safe, and I used the 1200 in Mascara's competition, and it's been pretty smooth. Never given me any trouble, so let's do that. And then after we set it to sensor none, we also need to set it back. So sensor type of our gyro sensor, gyro port. Rather, it's not a sensor right now, it's the designation of the port. Sensor type gyro is equal to sensor gyro. Wait 1 ms, and in this place I waited 2 seconds and it works smooth. So that's what I'm gonna show you. Alright, so in this case, compile program, no error, download to robot. Right now you can't see what's actually happening, but when I am actually, when I'm pressing this button, right now it's delaying and it's calibrating the gyro. And well, basically, you're going to show what you're going to see with your robot is that if this value is not 0, if you're turning your robot, this value changes, which is what it should be, good. Then if you press this value and keep your robot still, you can see that this value going back to exact 0, basically like zeroing it out. However, calibrating your robot's gyroscope is not the most effective way to zero out the gyroscope's value, and there are multiple ways to zero out the gyroscope value. I might do another series about gyroscope, how to the tricks and libraries and the codes others wrote to help you better control your gyroscope. But this is just a re-initializing way. If you see this value just changing itself, that's how you need that's what you need to do to fix it. You gotta press the center button, and cool. And you can actually see it here. You press it, gyro control view values is being delayed, and the gyroscope is being calibrated. It's pretty cool. But back to what I was talking about. If you want to say that during your robot's movement, if you say that I want to zero out the gyro's value, there are different ways to do that, and you don't need to spend 3 seconds in autonomous to recalibrate the gyroscope. And well, just to say that probably this might be useful, this might be handy, this might come in handy when you are actually pushing the robot and measuring some turning angles, but it is not the best way to zero out the gyroscope value. There's a better way to zero out gyroscope value. Anyway, this is what I want to show you about the gyroscope thing, and with this concept, with the command of display LCD center string, or just display LCD string rather, and display LCD number, and the if statement that detects whether the center button is pressed or not, you can essentially replace this block with anything. Well, I mean, possibly simpler. For instance, zero out a motor encoder. For instance, I mean, offsetting a potentiometer, or zeroing out a variable, or setting a variable to certain to certain values, which all can be done with this block method, and it is pretty cool. So that's what I want to show you, an example of how you just keep building a gyroscope, a LCD debug stream. Basically, what you do is that you, in the future, in the next video, I'm going to keep adding different types of sensors to, in this format, to my little K-switch statement one by one, and I'm just basically going to show you somehow you can call that a debug stream or debugger. Alright, this is MarmofX Forever. Hope you learned something. You have a nice day, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye. Now I sound like Markiplier. I didn't intend to sound like Markiplier. I love him.